Hey there, if you've been anywhere in the AI art space in the past couple of weeks, you will definitely have heard of ControlNet. It's a new extension for Stable Diffusion that gives you unprecedented control over your results and makes it possible to get results like this from input images like this, and results like this from input images like this. In just a couple minutes, you'll be able to do it too. Let's get started. In order for you to understand this video, you do need a fundamental knowledge of how Stable Diffusion works and how to use the Auto 1111 WebUI, so the thing that looks like this. If you don't know that, I recommend checking out my other videos and getting really familiar, because otherwise this isn't going to be very fun. I'm going to use an extension on top of all that, so I do expect some fundamental knowledge first. Now, what I'm going to be using today is the Ayonimix model. So this Stable Diffusion checkpoint, which just out of the box makes better images, in my opinion, with Stable Diffusion. So go get and install that. And a VAE. So this is just kind of a partial update to Stable Diffusion that makes it a little better, and especially using this model, it's essential to get good results. So also make sure you know how to use VAEs. I've included a guide in the video description on what they do and how to install them. So that's really easy. Just go and install those as well. And then we come to the extension that's the whole point of this video, ControlNet. ControlNet is an extension you can install with this link from GitHub, also in the description. So copy this, go into your Stable Diffusion's extension tab, install from URL, put the URL in there, and click install. Then once you've done that, you can activate it here in the installed tab. Just click the check mark there, apply and restart UI. And then you'll find in your text to image and image to image tabs a new tab down here called ControlNet, where you can have all kinds of extra settings that I'm going to explain a little bit later. What you're also going to do is activate multi-models, so you can use several ControlNet models stacked on top of each other, which is a setting here in your settings tab. You scroll down to ControlNet, and then multi-ControlNet. You can set it to 2, 3, 4, or however many you want. I'm going to use 2 today. And then, again, apply settings and reload UI to make sure you have several model tabs. Now, I've been saying models, right? What are those models? Well, you have several ControlNet models that you can use, that you can install here. Again, another link in the description. You have the canny model, the depth model, and a bunch of other ones, including the pose model. Now, what canny does, it's named after the canny edge detection by a guy named Canny. And what it does is it takes an image like this is the Wikipedia explanation, and detects edges. In the context of Stable Diffusion, what that means is you can put in an image, convert it into these edges, and that way tell Stable Diffusion what your image vaguely looks like what the elements are, how it's composed. And what the open pose model does is very simple. You give it an image of a person, it detects how that person is posing and converts it into a little image that looks like this. And that way, if you have characters in your scene, it'll pose them in the exact same way that your reference image does. Again, like in the thing I showed you, I took 2 pictures of myself posing in different ways and perfectly transferred that onto these 2 guys. So as said, I'm going to be using the canny model and the open pose model. So go ahead and download those 2, and when you have them, go into your Stable Diffusion WebUI folder, extensions, SD WebUI ControlNet, models, and drop your safe tensors in here. Then reload your UI, and you should be able to see them down here in your model and your preprocessors. So canny, and open pose. And with all that said, let's get going. Before we even begin in Stable Diffusion, what I'm going to start with is a photo bash. So a very rough combination of photos that represent what I want in my image as a result. Now for that, you can just open any photo editing program you like. I am going to use Affinity Photo because it's a one-time payment rather than the subscription that Adobe makes you do. So I am going to create a large image, 3072 pixels wide and 2048 pixels high. Why? Well, because Stable Diffusion was trained on 512 by 512 pixel images, and this is exactly 4 times the height And 3072 is 6 times 512. So we have a nice big landscape image that I'm going to create. DPI doesn't matter, 300 is good for digital. What am I going to build? I think I'm going to do a little bit of a sci-fi scene, some kind of Stranger Things inspired government experiment going wrong, you know, a really kind of action scene so we can use the full potential of ControlNet. So as a background, I'm going to check a free stock photo site called Unsplash and look for something like mission control, that kind of thing. So this kind of room is good, exactly. That's pretty much the only one it has of that. So let's download this. Let's look for government room. This could be cool. Okay, I'm gonna need a portal that goes wrong, some kind of, you know, machinery that's failing. This is cool. And tentacles. I'm gonna pull all these in. This could be kind of a good basis for the room. And the point with this is be really quick. You don't have to be detailed. That's the cool thing about Stable Diffusion. Like, Stable's going to do a lot of the work here. You just have to give it the vague vibe of what you're going for. You can adjust the perspective a little bit. You may know the image-to-image method, which I used in a lot of my early videos, which uses a lot of color information. The great thing about ControlNet is it won't. So if you want color information, you can still integrate it with the image-to-image workflow, but you don't have to. So what I'm going for here is more the texture, the lines, the composition of the image. The colors do not matter, and that saves us a ton of time here in prep. So I'm not going to edit the colors all that much. I'm just going for content. Okay, good. So this is the background. What about the foreground? Well, I want to put in some guys reacting to this whole thing, which is why I photographed myself in two perspectives. One like this, with my coffee mug running away from the whole thing. So I'm going to put that in there. And what I tried to do was wear things where you could really tell the outline. So instead of wearing just a white shirt, I have kind of this traditional like Bavarian shirt with dark buttons. So ControlNet has the ability to recognize the shape of those buttons, and then it's probably a shirt. And I held a coffee cup so you wouldn't see my hands too well. And you'll see in the other picture I'm making a fist, as I am here, because, you know, hands and AI don't play well together. Hands and artists don't play well together in general. And one more me. I also have this. Now those guys that were running that I also downloaded, I'm going to put into the tentacle. We'll see. Okay, good. So that's a great rough start, and we'll see what ControlNet and Stable Diffusion makes of it. We just export it normally as a JPEG in full resolution. And as per usual, I like to iterate through these images, so I'm just going to call it 1. Now we go into Stable Diffusion and check out our settings. So unlike image to image, we start in the first tab, the normal text to image tab. And I'm going to use my usual settings. So sampling method, DDIM, sampling steps is 20 for now is good. Batch count I do around 4 usually. And make sure your width is 768 and your height is 512. So the same aspect ratio as the image we just made. Now, ControlNet. Down here, you'll see your ControlNet settings. You have Control Model 0 and Control Model 1. Make sure those are both enabled and then load in your images. I'm going to load in 1. And this will be my canny edge detection. So you set the preprocessor to canny. It'll recognize the edges of your image and the model to canny as well. Weight can be 1 for now, we'll see. And make sure your canvas width is also 768 by 512. Now your second one will use the same image, but this time we're going to see the poses of these guys. So we're going to set the preprocessor to open pose and the model to open pose as well. Make sure your canvas settings are correct too, and weight can be 1 as well. And now we're going to prompt. So this is a longer prompt that I've just kind of figured out for a while. So I'm going to just put that in the description and you'll copy paste it in here or read it from here, but just go copy paste it. Now we describe our scene. A NASA laboratory mission control with a portal. Tentacles in the portal. 2 scientists wearing suits running away. And now we'll just see how far that gets us. Maybe the results will be incredible, maybe they will suck. Let's try. This might take a while to load because it has to load multiple models, right? Not just our stable diffusion model, but also the open pose model, the canny edge detection model. So it pre-processes our images and then generates the prompt. So far, very promising, isn't it? Doesn't that already look pretty much exactly like what I wanted? Not sure about the tentacles yet, but otherwise, damn. So here we go. You can already see, so there's a portal with a lot of tech and stuff in it. Our guys worked really well, so the poses worked, the suit worked. Has a couple different options. I'm not seeing any tentacles yet, but that's fine. This is already a very consistent look. The lighting is cool. And here you can see why. These are the edges it detected while generating. So you can tell it has all these phones and mission control elements that it took over. That's why that's so consistent. And these are the poses. So it got our guys' poses perfect. You can tell it's almost a little too constricted, and that's where the weights come in. So as you may know, you can, of course, weight in your prompt, and the same thing applies to ControlNet. So the weight, I would say, of our canny edge detection is a little too big. I do want it to be a little looser, so we can go down to 0.5. The poses I do like, so we can maybe set those down to 0.8, give it a little bit of freedom there, but not too much. And now, where I'm not seeing any tentacles, so I'm going to weight the tentacles in my prompt a little more, and I'm going to do 2 scared scientists wearing suits running away is good. And, the coffee mug, we're going to fix that later with Inpainting. For now, let's try again. Excellent. So as predicted, it went a little more creative with the images because it didn't rely on the canny edge detection quite so much. We still have the basics of the composition. The dudes are still in there. The tentacles are there, but it was a lot freer. A little too free for my taste. So you can tell they're no longer scared. They're no longer really running away. They're just kind of posing. I do like the general vibe a lot more though. So again, just adjust your ControlNet settings until you have a result you roughly like, and then we'll move on to the next step. Great, so we're slowly getting there. Now I'm starting to see elements that I really like in this image. So this monster, for example, is fantastic. And this is where we can start combining images back in Affinity. So I'm going to copy this one and bring it in here. We don't have to upscale or anything yet, right? This is still a very, very rough step. And start masking. So Photoshop has the same exact feature. You can open a mask. I'm going to invert that, and I'm just going to start painting in the parts that I like. So the monster is really fantastic. The portal, we'll see. We have our monster. We can save this image again and bring it back in here. So I like my guy here. He's kind of cool in his blue suit. So I'm going to bring him in here, as is the monster. So this is the best one so far, but I don't love this guy here. So I'm going to return him to my former self. We're not looking at colors yet. We're still looking at composition. This guy has the portal I like, and I want to bring back the details because I don't love mission control yet. So what we're doing now is basically I've kind of fixed the composition of my original image, right? It kind of makes a little more sense now. The perspective is better than my original Photoshop, so that's kind of what we're iterating here. So we can slowly turn up the canny edge detection step by step until we have the exact composition we like. So this is number 3. Going to bring this in here. Also update the pose if we want. We don't have to because it's pretty much the exact same thing with the weight. And now I'm going to turn this back up to 1 and edit my prompt. So portal can be a little more important. It isn't in every single image. Tentacles is very important, and the suits are as well. So I I like the blue suit jackets and white shirts, collared shirts. So let's see what that gives us. We can also turn up the sampling now a little bit, give us some more of that detail. Let's go up to 40. In this latest round, we're getting there. They're both wearing the blue suits I asked. This one's kind of lighter than that one. He doesn't look like he's running away yet, but the general vibe and colors I love. So this looks like the experiment is going wrong. There's light coming from behind. I'm going to add some more details that make it look like there's, fire, lightning, some containment exploded or whatever. But for now, this is our base for the next steps. So I'm going to upscale this because we need a higher resolution. I'm going to send it to extras, set the upscaler to R-ESR again 4 times, and resize to 4. Generate. This should be pretty quick. And there we go. It's a pretty good upscaler. It kind of has those artifacts that we know from upscaling with AI, but we're going to fix all that with Inpainting. So what am I missing? I still want to have my scared face. That's important for the next steps. So I'm going to mask this image and get that right back in there, as well as the coffee mug I'm holding, because that's kind of a funny joke. And now we're going to get to Inpainting, which is why I upscaled it, because we don't want to lose those details. This is iteration number 4. And this time we're going to go to the Image to Image tab. Now, because I do like all my settings, I'm just going to pick a random image, send it to Image, and that copies all the data over, but I'm going to replace it with my number 4 here. Same thing with ControlNet. I'm going to use the Open Pose one now, and that's the only one I'm going to enable, because Canny Edge Detection has done its job with the composition. So preprocessor, Open Pose again, canvas width 768. And now we're going to start Inpainting. So I want to replace my dude first, my running guy, and see if we can get him a little more stressed out. And now, very important, the in-paint area that I want is only masked. So then it will generate only that area in full resolution and give me back my fully upscaled, my fully scaled image back. So it won't have the whole thing as the maximum resolution and just try to make a tiny little edit. No, it's going to use the full power just to create that masked area, which is what we need. Very important click. All the others are okay. You want to inpaint the mask, you want to use the original content, and my denoising strength can go to around 65 or so. I don't want to change too much. Sampling method DDIM, and restore faces because we're working on a face, right? And since this is kind of a vertical area, I can change my height to 768 and my width to 512. That's okay. And now I'm going to replace my prompt with a scared man wearing a blue suit jacket holding a mug of coffee, and see where that gets us. Okay, we can see that I forgot the running, right? He's not really scared. He's just kind of standing there casually posing with his coffee, which is not what we want. But otherwise, everything else worked pretty well. So you can see there's now a whole ton of detail on just this guy. His shirt is getting a little blue there. Here's our action star, but the mug worked. Everything else worked pretty well. So let's add some more terms. Fearful, angry man, and try again. Much better. The expression is so much better. He's a little confused. But in general, I have the mug of coffee. I have this one. I kind of like this guy the most. He's the most stressed. I love the mug. I love the pose. And we just need some manual editing later in Affinity. So I'm going to copy this, and you'll see immediately, if I paste it in, it's the right size. It's big. So that's the important trick with the Inpainting, to have those settings correct. Now let's keep editing with this image, because we're going to edit some stuff that won't impact our guy, so we don't have to immediately jump into photoshopping there, or affinitying. So I'm going to choose this, send to image, and just continue my process. So because this creature is more in the background, I'm going to go for it first. I'm going to clear my Inpainting brush strokes here, and just select all of this dude. Now change my width and height. Make sure this is much smaller. So if you send an image to Inpainting back that's really big, it's going to do way too big dimensions. So you have to make sure to get these down. So this is a horizontal image, so I'm going to do 768 width and 512 height again. And probably going to turn up the denoising strength a little bit. I will allow it to be a little more creative because there aren't very many details there anyway. So this is now a tentacle monster octopus coming out of a portal, and add some stuff like explosion, fire, glass, destruction. Just see what happens and experiment. This is all a very loose process anyway. And we no longer need ControlNet because we don't have poses or anything. We're going to do that later. I love, love, love these. This one has the most detail, so I'm going to take this dude here and just clean up a little bit. Just, have a nice backup and get a nice clear image of this. This were a client project, you could do some more editing down there if you wanted to. Now I'm going to try to get some, like a nice coffee splash in there. Now using the same procedure as before, I'm going to do this guy. And again, make sure you have open pose enabled again, because we have a man we want to get here, and it's more vertical, set the height and width to that, and adjust our prompt. Okay, you can spend as much time as you want on this, obviously. I'm just going to leave it here for now and have it be the experiment at GQ magazine. Here, take this angry looking boy here. And the advantage of having backups on occasion is that you can fix stuff like what's happening here, right? So this is obviously an artifact from Inpainting that we can easily edit as cleanly as we like with a normal mask here. And now using this workflow, you can just go through this entire image. There's a lot of artifacts down here that still look very AI generated, and I'm going to take those on next, get more higher res tentacles and monster stuff in here, etc. See you on the other side. Excellent. So this is where I'm going to leave it. This is my final artwork for this tutorial. You can do many more details if you want. You can see time spent in it equals higher quality. To compare, this was my rough input, this was the composition, and this is the result. Everything I wanted is in the exact place I wanted it. The octopus tentacle monster, the dude, I added him later again, but he's almost in the same place I wanted him. Me, who I just kind of posed for with my own phone. I took a picture of myself in the same positions. All the adjustments that are made, I wanted to be made, so you can easily control different elements of the image. I'm pretty proud of this. I hope it was informative for you, and I hope you have tons of fun doing this for yourself. This is such a promising technology, and I'm sure we'll see even more incredible developments in the next weeks, let alone months and years. We haven't even been at this for a year. If you learned anything in this video, the best thing you can do for me is leave a subscription, a like, and a comment. Joining the over 11,000 people now who've subscribed to this channel. I couldn't be more grateful. Thank you so much. You're making this possible. With that said, see you next time. I'm Albert Bosazan, and I hope you have fun with Stable Diffusion and ControlNet.